Welcome to Amplified Treasures, a channel dedicated to music gear, guitars, basses, amps, drums, everything. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the ESP James Hetfield signature model, the ESP Snakebite. The ESP Snakebite is one of my favorites. It's a derivative of the Explorer shape, and this one is in snow white. It does come in satin black. It used to come in gloss black and in snow white like this one. This is special to me, not only because I love the shape, I love the way it feels, but this was the first ESP that I bought brand new. Came from the factory, set up perfectly. I emailed ESP when I received the email that my guitar came in stock. It took about a year-ish to get. I ordered it in 2019. I got it in 2020. So yeah, about a year, which was fast. You know, they're custom made, so they do take a long time. Currently, I'm still waiting on an ESP USA, and that's going on 2 years in August. So the wait times for these custom shop guitars are pretty long, and even some of the production models are getting kind of long. But that's due to just the world. You know, a post-COVID world where you know, supplies are hard, supplies have gone very expensive, things like that. So expect to wait a little longer for things, especially, you know, when you're ordering custom shop guitars. But like I said, this was my first brand new ESP. It was my second ESP to my collection. My first ESP I bought used. But when I got the email from Sweetwater telling me my guitar was in stock, I emailed ESP and asked them if I should get it plecked, what I should do to it. And they recommended not doing anything. So, you know, it comes from the factory, custom shop, everything's set to ESP specs. And when I received the guitar, I was blown away. Like I said, it was my first ESP that I bought brand new, my second ESP in my collection. It played amazing right out of the case. So I have to agree with them that you really don't need to do anything to these guitars. That would change, of course, if when you got the guitar you wanted to change tunings, right? If the guitar comes in tuned to E standard and you want to go to D standard, you know, you may have to, you know, adjust the relief in the neck. You may have to adjust some intonation and things like that, your action. But the guitar came tuned E, and that's what I wanted to play it with. So right out of the box, the guitar played amazing. I didn't have to do anything to it. And even during shipping, a lot of the times you have to, you know, when a guitar is built and tension's put on it from the strings, a lot of the times you do have to change relief. You do have to tinker with the setup. And surprisingly, when I got this guitar and pulled it out of the case, all I really had to do was tune it up, and it played smooth. The neck is amazing. The radius feels really nice. I'm a fan of gloss guitars because of the way they feel. I feel like gloss, I can transition better. It's just the smoothness of it. Whereas the satin guitars, I don't feel as comfortable moving around with it. Now, I'm not a lead guitar player. I'm not a shredder. I'm a rhythm guitar player. So, you know, that doesn't really mean much. Like, you know, I'm not up here just shredding around. But I do like the way the gloss feels. And I mean, this is an amazing white. It's snow white. You know, they came out with the Olympic white Vultures, which is more of an aged white. And I have to say I like that white a lot. You know, this guitar would look amazing in Olympic white, but it will get there on its own in time. So let me tell you a little bit about this ESP. Like I said, the Snakebite was released in 2011. It originally came in Snow White, Gloss Black, and Satin Black. We will be showing the Satin Black and the Gloss Black in this video as well. The Gloss Black was discontinued in 2012. You could still get some ESP custom shop ones made in Gloss Black for a while after that. But from what I've been told now, they're not doing those, even in the ESP custom shop. That could change at any time. You know, I don't control what ESP does, so I can only tell you what's happening right now. And as of right now, they're only doing Snow White and Satin Black. It is a set neck. It's very beautiful. No lines, nothing. I'll show some pics, of course, for the things that maybe you can't see from me holding up the guitar. It's a 24 3/4 inch scale, mahogany body, and a one-piece mahogany neck. Now, I do want to point out the LTD version of the Snakebite has a 3-piece mahogany neck. So that's one difference right there between the ESP and the LTD. The ESP has an Ebony fingerboard, 305 millimeter. The LTD has a, I can never pronounce it right, Mascar Ebony with a 350 millimeter. So that's another difference between the two. The ESP does come with a bone nut. It's a 42 millimeter bone nut, whereas the LTDs are molded. It's a thin U neck contour with 22 extra jumbo frets. Sperzel locking tuners. The LTDs come with LTD locking tuners, which are pretty good. I've had LTD Snakebytes and they're awesome. TonePros locking bridge and tailpiece. Tune-O-Matic. Active EMG headsets, which are really, really hot 8160s. Sound amazing. And of course you have the 2 volumes, and they do come with a form-fit case for now. I've heard rumors that the form-fit cases are going away. So far I haven't seen that. Maybe, you know, once they run out, they will. Maybe the signature models will always have a form-fit case. Well, let me rephrase that. Not a form-fit, a hardshell form-fit case. I've heard rumors that they're going to soft cases or a hybrid case. I think Gator has one. I saw it NAMM last year and the year before. It's kind of a mix between a hardshell and a soft case. It was pretty nice, actually. I do like my hardshell cases. And if you've followed me already, you know that I like to paint my cases to match the guitars. I'll show some pictures of that while I'm talking about it. I will paint Metallica on the bottom of the case, opposite of the ESP. And then I like to paint what the guitar is. So for example, this is a Snow White Snakebite. So the snake logo on the 12th fret, I will stencil that out and I'll paint that in the middle of the guitar case, and I'll paint it the color of the guitar. So I have one that's white, and then of course I have gloss black and satin black right here. But painting black on a black case is kind of hard. So what I do is I do an outline of the snake in gloss black, or I just put gloss clear on it for the satin one, and I leave the snake empty on the case so it looks kind of satiny. For the gloss one, what I did is I just glossed the entire snake. So I put clear gloss on it to make it look like it was gloss black on the case, and they turned out nice. I like doing that way, you know, as I'm grabbing cases and putting guitars in. Yes, they'll fit in any of them, but I do try to keep the guitars in the cases that match. It's just a little thing I started doing. I saw the ESP Iron Cross that they released 100 of them, and I saw that it said Iron Cross on it with a JH, and I thought that's pretty cool. And then I got the Ouija guitars, and they have, you know, the Ouija on it, and the 30th anniversary guitars have Metallica on the case. And when I started seeing those, I was like, all the cases should do that. So I made some stencils and painted them on myself. So getting back to the snake logo, another difference, and it's not huge, but it's noticeable. Another difference between the LTD and the ESP is the eye. The eye in the snake is there on the ESP, whereas on the LTDs, there's no eye. The weight of this guitar is really comfortable. This one feels, I should weigh them sometimes because the Snow White one actually feels heavier than my two black ones. I'm not sure why. They're all three serial E's. So what I mean by that is they're normal custom shop guitars, not Kiso. Kiso is the K serial numbers. There's a lot of talk that the Kiso models are better than the E models, the custom shops, the normal custom shops. I've owned a few Kisos, and I still own that one. I can tell you the neck radius, like, you know, they say it's a thin U, they're all thin U's, but for some reason the Kiso shop ones feel a lot thicker, especially the Iron Cross I had, and I'll get into that with the Iron Cross video. But the Iron Cross Kiso model that I had, man, it felt like a baseball bat. It felt nice, but it was thick like a baseball bat. So like I say, this is my first ESP brand new. There's no neck dive on these things. You would think a guitar this big, you know, wouldn't it be balanced? You know, that it would probably, you know, want to dive to the heavy part, but it's really pretty balanced. You know, you put it on and it doesn't really slide. And I mean, that's not just me saying it. You can watch videos of James playing, and when he takes his hands off it and, you know, holds up the mic or interacts with the audience, you can see that the guitar doesn't start to slide because they're very well balanced. The EMG headset pickups are amazing. You heard some of it on the intro. Not only for the heavy thrash tones, but, you know, even for the cleans. You know, it's got a great clean sound. So the clean is just amazing. I record with this one a lot. I'll record clean, I'll record distortion, but you know, it's funny because I have a lot of Snakebytes. They all have headsets in them, but for some reason, this one just is one of my favorites to play and record with. I can't explain it, but that's the way it is. So, you know, if we want to move on to the black one, I'll just show you a couple different images of this one, the back. The other thing you'll notice on my guitars is the 24-volt sticker Well, we can actually talk about that too. So I do put a sticker on the battery compartment. So the LTDs and other ESP guitars, LTDs basically, and some other guitar manufacturers that have active pickups. You know, active pickups require a battery, a 9-volt battery. EMGs can do 9 volts, 18 volts, or 24 volts. So I'll put a sticker on the battery cover of what voltage I'm running. So I'm running 24 volt in most of my guitars. This is an ashtray. So the difference between the ESP and the LTD has a plastic cover you have to unscrew. These have the little ashtray battery holder. And I can show you that the 24 volt mod, I used to make these myself, but I got lazy, and you know, time was more valuable to me. So I reached out to the company that makes these, their 24 volt mod. It's basically two 12 volt camera batteries basically, and then a 9 volt adapter wired in, because you know, if you wire them in series, they become 24 volt each 12. The 24 volt mod people send these cool little rubber pieces. You don't really need it. You can plug it in and put it in there. I like it, so I'll use them. But it's as simple as just changing the 9 volt battery to this 24 volt mod kit. Whereas if you want to do an 18 volt mod, you actually have to cut the wire. And that's two 9 volt batteries. So you'll have a 9 volt in here, and then you got to put a 9 volt in here. The problem with that is if you're lucky enough that both batteries die at once, you got to change them both, right? No big deal. But if one battery starts getting lower than the other, it really affects the pickups a lot more than just a normal 9 volt battery dying out. I've had that happen. My Vulture used to be an 18 volt mod. But when I had some custom work done to it, I went ahead and changed it, put it back to 9 volt regular, and then put a 24 volt mod in. So why would I run a 24 volt mod? Honestly, just because I want to. So I can tell you all sorts of stuff saying it sounds better, there's more headroom. The headroom part is true. I mean, you can see that on EMG's website with their schematics and their white papers on it. The 9 volt sounds great. The 18 volt sounds great. The 24 volt sounds great. I feel a difference when I've got it turned up and the amps are on. Sounds a little thumpier, a little more, I really don't know how to describe it, but over the years of shooting, going to concerts, and I started playing drums when I started getting into music, and I never wore hearing protection at all. I don't recommend that. I really recommend that if you're getting into this stuff or you're doing things, to really take care of your ears. I mean, we only get one set of hearing for now. Who knows what will come in the future? But really take care of your ears. And the reason I bring that up is people hear a difference between 9 volt, 18 volt, and 24 volt. I think I've just lost that part of my hearing where I really hear it. When you record with it, you can hear different little aspects of it, but honestly not enough to say you must do 24 volt. 24 volt is the way to go. I had a conversation with Chad, James Hetfield's tech, and we talked about batteries and 9 volt versus 24 volt. And he even said that he runs all 9 volt in James's guitars. So that's why it says 24 volt on the back. That way I just know when I'm looking at it. I do carry 9 volt batteries, and I carry a bunch of 12 volt batteries in my live gear. So if something goes dead, I can change it. And that's another advantage I would recommend if you're going to change your voltage in your EMGs. You know, go 9 or 24. And the reason I say that is because remember, you have a battery, another 9-volt battery tucked back here in the plate. So if you do need to change batteries at a gig or practice session or something like that, you got to take time and open it up. What if you only have one good 9-volt? You know, there's things like that. You can't run one. Once you cut the wire to do an 18-volt mod, you can't just run one battery. You know, I used to make an adapter that allowed me to run one, put it back. You know, you just put an adapter in for that second battery, and it thinks it's a 9-volt. But the nice thing about running 9-volt or 24-volt is if my batteries die right now and I don't have any good 12-volt batteries, I can throw in a 9 and it's going to work immediately. So, and vice versa. If you're running a 9-volt and you say, hey, I want to try 24-volt, you throw in this mod, it's interchangeable. So if you're going to change the voltage of your guitars, I do recommend either staying at 9 or going to 24. It's just easier. Plus it's easier to go back. If you ever want to sell the guitar, you don't have to cut the wiring, resolder things and things like that. So this is the Snow White, my favorite. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. I'll go ahead and just put this one right here. The next one that is still current is the Satin Black. So like I say, this video is about all three because the specs are the same. So I could make 3 different videos, one for each color, but I'm going to tell you that it's a set neck, 24 3/4 inch scale, mahogany body, 1-piece mahogany neck. Unless it's an LTD, it's a 3-piece neck, and so on. So I figure, you know, these 3 being kind of the standard of what's out there can be combined. I will do separate videos on my custom Snakebytes, you know, my chrome one, my camo one, my copper one. But as far as the standard colors go, so this is the Satin Black. One thing I will point out that I don't like, and I'll point this out probably in another video I make, not probably, I will, is that the Satin guitars, the ESP guitars, and LTD even Snakebytes come with gloss hardware. So they come with gloss hardware. They come with a black chrome. Basically, it's shiny. It's gloss. And of course, the Sperzels are all kind of matte. Even on this one, they're matte. But what I like to do is I don't think that a matte or a satin guitar should be shiny at all. So I replaced the black chrome pickups with what EMG, these are still het sets. So this is an EMG het set, but these are called brushed black chrome. So it gives it more of a satin look, not so shiny. The other thing I did is I sprayed the, it's a little worn off. The thing with satin guitars is when you play them, they do become kind of shiny a little bit. I don't think you can see it in the video, but the neck is getting a little shiny from my hand, and sometimes it will get shiny here. It's just a little bit on the edge. I don't play this one a lot, but I sprayed the knobs with some satin clear just to doll them up. Same with the pickup rings. When I changed the pickups, I sprayed the pickup rings to get them satin color. And then the bridge and the pickup, these are still TonePros, Tune-O-Matic bridge. But what I did is I called TonePros and said, why don't you have matte black or satin black bridge and tailpiece on your website? I've received guitars with them, and you know that's kind of leading into my next video. But LTD vultures. LTD vultures come with matte tailpiece and bridge, but the ESPs come with gloss. And I'll go more into that when I go into the vultures. But the ESPs and LTD Snakebytes both come with gloss. So they told me that they do sell them. They just don't sell them on the website. And all I have to do is go ahead and buy a set of black ones and put in the notes that I want the matte black, but to also call him and let him know my order number so he makes sure that he does it. So I ordered like 4 sets because I knew I wanted to swap them out on a few guitars. And since then I've ordered more because I've swapped them out on more, and we'll get into that in other videos. But I think it looks a lot better having the matte satin look on a satin guitar. So that way nothing's shiny. I did leave, like I said, the Sperzels come just this way. They don't make shiny ones, so they fit in fine for this guitar. And I, of course, left the ESP logo as the silver, just because if I did have a black one, or if I painted it black or swapped the two, it just wouldn't stick out as much. And you know, it's nice having that ESP logo just kind of pop on the guitar, kind of like the white here, you know, the white finish and the black ESP logo just pops, and you know, same with the silver on the black. But that's a satin black version. I mean, they play the same. Like I said, the pickups are the same. It sounds great. It plays great. And the funny thing is the satin one is a lot lighter. You know, I'll try to weigh them and put the weights in the description when I publish this video, because this one is, I'm gonna guess this is just over 7 pounds, where I would guess this white one is probably close to 9. I like heavy guitars, so that doesn't bother me. You know, I am getting up there in age, so my back doesn't like heavy guitars, but luckily I'm not on stage. I'm not, you know, touring around for 2 hours on stage, running back and forth, or even if I was just gigging, you know, for an hour, I think my back would kill me. So I mainly play sitting down, but it is a drastic difference between this one and that one. But even with the weight difference, still no neck dive. I mean, the weight is drastically different, but when I do stand up with a strap, this thing just stays as is. I normally tune my guitars a little different, so this one is normally tuned in E flat. Right now it is tuned in E because I was using it for something that I wanted the satin black guitar for, and I wanted it in E. But normally I will keep the white one in E. I'll keep this one in E flat. And then that's a good segue into the gloss black one. So the gloss black, like I say, it was discontinued in 2012. The gloss black just looks amazing. I'm really, really glad I have this. But this is the gloss black one. It's gorgeous. It's, you know, I like gloss guitars. I understand, you know, to a point why some people don't. You know, I know James prefers a lot of his guitars to be satin, so when the lights hit them, it doesn't, you know, fans can still see the graphics or things like that, you know, with his Cthulhu and snakeskin and his elk. because elk was gloss. But when the lights hit gloss, you can't really see it, you know. But with the snakeskin that he has now and the Cthulhu, when the lights hit it, because it's a satin base, you can still see all the detail in the guitar. So I understand the reasoning for it. But again, I like the feel of a gloss neck. I think, you know, I have a few friends that think their hand slides better on a satin. My hand slides better on a gloss. But this one I have not changed. The only thing I have changed is, of course, 24 volt. But this is my, do you want heavy? Do you like your music heavy? So that's my guitar. And if you know, then you'll know what I have it tuned to. I have it tuned to D. So this guitar is in D standard. And that's the joy of having more than one. It sucks carrying them around because, you know, when I do jam with people, I do it, you know, not here. So I've got to plan on what songs we're going to play, what tunings we're going to be in, and then take the guitars that I need. And like I say, my back is getting older, so, you know, when I have to take, you know, 4 or 5 guitars, because, you know, I'm playing in 3 different tunings, and you always have to have a backup, because if I break a string or I always say that, right? If you break a string or you do something or one stops working, you have a backup. But honestly, it's just because I like playing different guitars. So, I mean, the main reason I take more than one is tunings, and then I like having choices because I like switching guitars. They're fun. So yeah, this one is tuned to D. It's tuned up a little bit better now. I had to take a break and retune it. So when you have multiple guitars and multiple tunings, you know, I do have a spreadsheet that tells me, one, all my guitars, where I bought them from, serial numbers, right? As well as the last time the strings were changed, what strings I used, last time the batteries were changed. So, yeah, and the tuning, of course. So, you know, I could pick one up and I can strum it and I can tell you, oh, that's E or D, or some of them are in open C, not some, there's one in open C. So that's the advantage of having so many guitars, is you can really experiment with tuning, because when you tune guitars to different levels, you do have to do setups. I really don't see, I've never experienced where I have to do a full setup going from E to E flat. You know, going from E to D, yeah, I had to adjust, but very little. You don't have to adjust a lot, but then when you take a guitar that's normally in E and you put it into open C or even B standard for the baritones, or some of my corn guitars, they're in, you know, A, counting that 7th string. You know, you do have to adjust. You can't, and string size too. I go back and forth. My favorite string in the world, and if you're listening to this, I hope you take note of it. My favorite strings are Ernie Ball Cobalt hybrids. So I like the heavy, like the 10s on top and the 9s on the bottom. I can do 10s, that's fine. Cobalt 10s are fine. The reason that I've pretty much switched over, except for the guitars that I really use for recording, I still use Ernie Ball Cobalt. They just sound so good. They're clear, they're bright. But The majority of the guitars I own, I use D'Addario, NYXLs, and the N10s. And the only really reason I do that is because when you own, 50 plus, 60 plus guitars, you really want strings in bulk. Ernie Ball doesn't sell bulk strings. So that's why I say, if Ernie Ball, you're listening, bulk string sets, man. Come on. D'Addario, they sell a 25 string pack. So I buy those, and those are the majority of ones I play on my guitar. On the guitars, I normally play, NYXL 10s. And then on the ones that I know I'm going to record with, or like these have Ernie Ball Cobalts. Nope, this one has D'Addario. You can tell because the colored ends. Well, Ernie Ball doesn't have the colored ends. Yeah, my favorite strings are Ernie Balls. These are definitely Ernie Ball Cobalts because I use the Snow White for a lot of recording. And I'll change those more often if I'm doing recording. Whereas, the other ones I kind of leave on until they just sound like crap. Here we have the Gloss Black and the Satin Black side by side. You can see the difference. Some people will say absolutely the satin, some people will say absolutely the gloss. I happen to really like the gloss one, and especially since they're harder and harder to find now, since being discontinued. But of course, a satin black guitar, I mean, it's something you have to have in your collection, of course. And then the big guy. I call it the big guy because it just feels heavier. My favorite right here, the Snow White Snakebite. So that's all I have for you today on the ESP James Hetfield signature Snakebite series in Snow White, in Satin Black, and in Gloss Black. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to try keeping these coming weekly, bi-weekly, as often as I can between, the real job. So it will help me out a lot. Like it, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what you like better. That's why they make so many, right? Because everyone likes different things. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you do like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Amplified Treasures. Thank you very much.